Okay. So yesterday we looked at the file structure in IntelliJ, and we looked at creating feature resources, feature folders. I'm just trying sharing my screen now, so I'm not just speaking off the top of my head. Zoom. As I was saying, yesterday we looked into folder structures in IntelliJ, looked into the two major plugins you need to install. We looked into BDD and TDD. We looked into creating resources folder, feature files, your POM file, the content that needs to go in there, your test-ng, your test runner as well. And we're going to be looking into converting our Gherkin steps in our feature file to step definition. And like I mentioned yesterday, step definition is the glue in our project. It contains most of the codes that are going to be needed to run your Gherkin steps that you have in your feature file. And in order to create your step definition, and like I mentioned yesterday, you can see that it has the step definitions. The Gherkin steps have got like I don't know what color is this, like a yellowish background. It's got like a yellowish background. But once we create the step definition, then the backgrounds are going to clear off. So anytime you have a feature file and you see that it's got a background like this, then it definitely means that it does not have a step definition created yet. And if I go back to my slide, I put what step definition is on the slide. Step definition, and I said that it maps the test case steps in the feature file to the associated code. So your step definition is considered as a glue in your project. So how do you create your step definition? I'll usually recommend that you create the step definition for the first step alone, first of all. And once that looks okay, then you can create the step definition for the rest of the steps at the same time. So I'm going to create the step definition for a given step now. And you can see that once I click on it, I'm not clicking on the given, because when people make the mistake, you need to click on the other bit that's got the background. Once I click on it, you can see that there's a yellow bulb showing. And I'm going to click on the yellow bulb. And you can see it says there are two options: create step definition or create all step definitions. So I'm going to click on create step definition, which is going to create just one step definition. And that is going to be the only one for my given step. So create step definition. And I'm going to call the step definition name. I'm going to give the file name a meaningful name. So my feature file. So in most cases, your feature file and your step definition should usually have the same name, so we know what file is connected to what feature file. So my step definition file, I'm going to call it inquiry step def. So I'm going to call my feature file inquiry step def. And the location, my step definitions file need to live in the folder here that is called step definitions. So you can see my file location is not appending the step definition at the end. So I need to go and look for I need to go and click on the path that is going to have step definition at the end of it. So you just need to click on the folder here that says browse. And you can already see it was initially navigating to the Java folder, but I want it to be under my step definition folder. So I'm going to click on the step definition and I'll click on open. Then you see the path file location here now has step definition at the end, which is what I want. And then after then, all I need to do is to click on OK. And there are two things that usually happen here. I don't know why. Maybe it's the version of IntelliJ I'm using, all I know is that, or maybe it's a version of IntelliJ I'm using on this laptop because my work laptop is not like this. But all I know is that whenever I create my step definition, it just doesn't come out as it's meant to come out. So what I have done is that I have copied what the step definition should look like in the PDF documents that I have sent to you guys. And what I'm going to do now is to just copy a snippet of what it should look like from that feature file into this step definition. Because usually you're not meant to see all of this content in here. And it shouldn't just look like this. So a normal step definition should look something like, so the normal step definition should look something like this when you create it. So you can see that it's got the giving step, giving I navigate to the website. The giving step has been imported here. The package for the giving step has been imported here automatically. Now, if we go back to our feature file, you will notice something different about it. You can see it no longer has like the background. And that basically means that there's a step definition created for that particular step now. And the other ones don't have step definitions just yet. So if you go back into our step definition, another thing you need to take note of is, when we pick the location that says step definition when we're creating it. So the reason why we did that is so that the file gets created under the step definition folder. So you can see we have this underneath. The inquiry step def is underneath the step definitions folder. So if you make a mistake and create it outside of the step definition, then it's always going to be under Java, and that's not what we want. We need it inside the step definition folder. And I'm going to show us or explain a couple of things that we are seeing in our step definition folder as well. So if I go back into our step definition, right. So if I think for the Java class, we should have a class on Saturday, fingers crossed, because most of what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about them in depth on Saturday as well. So first off, you can see we have public class inquiry step def. So the public, the class, and the inquiry step def have all got their own names that we call them. So what this is basically doing is what public class inquiry step def means here is that the public class basically defines a method called inquiry step def. And this is like a major template in Java. So this public class inquiry is a major template that we use in Java programming. The public here is a major keyword, which means that the class can be accessed from any other class. And in this case, the name of this class is called inquiry step def. So the class name would obviously differ based on what you call it. And it obviously has to be something meaningful as well. So that's just what I'm going to say about the public and the class name as well. So the class name here is inquiry step def, and the public basically means that this particular class can be accessed from anywhere within our project. And another major keyword that we can have is private. So private, so if it's private here, it means that the methods that we create inside this class can only be accessed by anything inside this inquiry step def class. But since it is public, that means that any file that we have here can access this particular class. But if it is private, only the methods in here can be accessed only within this file here. So that's what the public and the private means. And we're going to dive deeper into it when we are looking into introduction to Java. So I think ahead of the class, I'm going to look for the last introduction to Java class that I took so that you can obviously have an idea of what we're going to be looking at. If you want to look at the previous videos ahead of the topics we're going to be looking at as well, you can do that within your own spare time. Come to the class with questions, or if you understand it, that's totally fine as well. You can share what you've learned. If you have questions, you can obviously ask questions as well. I'm going to be looking into Introduction to Java on Saturday, God willing. So, right. So moving on to our step definition, we have created a step definition for a given step, which is this one. So now I'm going to go back into my feature file. Oh, sorry, not that one. It's called this one. So I was surprised. So we're going to go back into our feature file and create a step definitions for the other steps. And what do I need to do? Just like I've done previously, I'm going to come to the very next line, which is, and I fill out the first name and last name field. I fill out the first name and last name field. I've clicked on, I fill out the second half of that sentence, and I can see the bulb, the orange bulb. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to click on create all step definitions. I'm not going to click on the first option. I'm going to click on the second option now. So when I say create all step definitions, that's going to create step definition from line 5 to line 18. So let's do that now. Click on this, click on the bulb, create all step definitions. I'm going to click on that. And you can already see that automatically my file for my step definition that I created previously is now showing on the list here. So all I need to do is click on inquiry step def, because that's the file that I want my step definitions to be created inside. So once I click on that, then it's going to create the other step definitions for me automatically and correctly as well. So you can see we already have imports for our other Gherkin steps. Previously, it was only the given that was showing. But now that I've created step definitions for the other steps, we have the and, we have the when, and then we have the then as well. So this is what your step definition should look like. And if I go back to my feature file now, you can see everything is looking nice, sparkly, no errors or yellow lines, errors on the lines or yellow warnings. Everything is giving me a green tick as well. It says no problem found. Super. So that means my feature file is looking okay, or my feature file is okay. I've created step definitions for all of the steps. If I look at my step definition as well, you can see it's giving me a green tick, means everything is fine. There's no error or anything to worry about or any warning. So if I see anything aside from green, another color you could see is red. So what IntelliJ does is that it's going to tell you when there's something wrong in your code. If there's anything missing, it's going to let you know by giving you either like a bulb icon signal or like a red or an orange signal as well. So if I try deleting the bracket here, like the closing bracket, something should pop up. You can see show me 37 errors and 9 warnings. That's simply because I missed the closing bracket. So IntelliJ is going to tell you something is up, something is missing. And let me see. So it's usually meant to tell me, it's telling me that a semicolon, I think it was telling me that a semicolon was missing, but I know that that's not what is missing. It's a closing bracket that is missing. So I'm going to add the closing bracket there. And you can see everything else is fine. It looks green now. So IntelliJ is going to tell you when something is wrong with your code, what specific line the error is on, and everything like that. So now that we have created a step definition, the next thing we're going to do is to try to open up the Chrome browser. So we're going to be using Chrome browser to run our test. So if you don't have Chrome browser downloaded on your system, you need to download Chrome browser on your system. That is the first thing you need to do now, download Chrome browser on your system. But before I move on, I want to explain, I don't know, I may be surprised, nobody has asked me that, oh, where did I get all the content for the form file from? I know that I mentioned it at the start of the video, but I know people usually ask me that, oh, where did I get the content for the POM file from? Like, did I get it from my ed? Is it like a standard content or anything like that? So because I know the major methods they were going to be using, the major packages they were going to be using, so that's how I know what dependencies to put in my POM. And there are sometimes that you'd have some dependencies that they will not be used at all, but there's no point in having dependencies you will not be using. So there's usually like a long list of dependencies in the POM, but I've sort of like removed the irrelevant ones, and we only have the relevant ones in the POM now, and it's short. It's very short. But in a normal working environment, it could be really long because you could be using different packages, different dependencies, or different methods within your code as well. So it all depends on what you're trying to use within your code. And where did I get Cucumber Java from? Where did I get the specific dependency from? Where did I get the one for the Lombok from? And where did I get the one for the WebDriver Manager from? So for example, we are using Chrome Driver. And like I mentioned in the last class, in order for IntelliJ to open up Chrome on your system, we need to use a Chrome extension of some sort, which is what we call Chrome Driver. So Chrome Driver is like an, well, I call it like a, I don't know, I can call it like some sort of like extension for Chrome. And the Chrome driver can be downloaded from Google website. But we're not going to be doing that because there are different versions of Chrome. There are different versions of Chrome driver. I can show you how to do that in a different class, like downloading the associated Chrome driver for your Chrome browser. So I can show you what I mean. So if I go, I'm just going to type Chrome driver download. And I'm sure you obviously know there is Chrome version 90, 100. I think the current Chrome version that we have, or the current Chrome version that you should have on your system now, should be version 121. So in order to know what version of Chrome that you have, you need to click on the three the three dots that are here, go to help and about Google Chrome. Then it's going to show you the version of Chrome that you have. So I currently have version 122. And if I'm going to be downloading the Chrome driver, if I'm going to be downloading the Chrome driver that matches this Chrome browser that I have, I need to download version 122. If I use version 124, it's not going to be compatible with the Chrome that I have on my laptop. If I use version 90, that is like way below the recommended Chrome driver that I should have for my Chrome on my laptop. So I'm meant to download version 122 Chrome driver. So it's going to be a case of me coming to WebDriver for Chrome downloads. So I just type Google Chrome downloads on my browser, and it's going to give me different options to download from. So you can see this is Chrome driver 114, but I need 122. So these are like the stable versions, and I'm not downloading Chrome. I need Chrome driver. So the one for my operating system would be this one that says Mac 64-bit. If you're using Windows 32, you can download this one. So all you need to do is to just highlight, copy this link, paste it on a different tab, then you download it. But the reason why I don't recommend people doing this is if your Chrome, you've already downloaded Chrome driver 122, but if your Chrome, for example, your Chrome browser updates to 124, and you're still running Chrome driver 122, it's going to get to a point or a day you just start your laptop and you're wondering why your tests are not running. And that would most likely be because you have a Chrome browser 124, but your Chrome driver is 122, and it's definitely not compatible. That's like 2 versions off. So you usually have to go and download 124 Chrome driver on your system again, then change the path, tell your driver to navigate to a different path and all the yada, yada, yada. It's just a little stressful. So in order to stop ourselves from having to download Chrome driver and everything, we have a plugin that we use, and the plugin is called WebDriver Manager. And where did I get this plugin from? Like everything like this, I got it from a free source. And the free source, I think I mentioned it during one of our class, that one of the major websites you'll be looking at is what I call Maven repository. So this Maven repository has got like different dependencies, different plugins that you can think of that you need in any of the frameworks you're working on, be it Python, C#, wherever you need different plugins, you can come and copy them from here. And it also has like the Maven dependency type, the Gradle dependency type. So depending on the framework you're working on as well, you can obviously come and copy the relevant dependency type compatible with your framework from this website also. It's a free source one. I think I added it into the PDF I sent. If I didn't, I'll have a look again and I'll copy and paste it in there. But you can just Google Maven repository on your Google Chrome, and then it's going to be the first link that pops up on your screen. So, like I mentioned, we have the WebDriver Manager. And if I'm meant to, assuming I don't have this in my, so I'm going to assume that I don't have this at all in my POM file, but I need to copy it from the web. So all I need to do is, if I know the dependency I'm looking for or something similar to it, all I need to do is to go in my Maven repository and just type WebDriver Manager. And you can see it's the very first one that popped up on the screen. So usually, if you're looking for what the dependency should look like, you can obviously Google WebDriver Manager dependency for Maven project. It's going to pop up on your screen. Then you see what it looks like. Then you obviously come and copy it correctly from here as well. And it's got different versions. I think we're using a 5.6.3, but I'm going to look at 5.6.4. Click on that one. And you can see, like I said, it's got the Gradle version, Gradle Short, Ivory, whatever. But we are using Maven. So all I need to do is just click or highlight it here, then copy it, and then go back into my POM file and just paste it there. Paste it in my POM file, and that is me gotten the dependency that I need. And once, because it's showing in red, it means that it means that IntelliJ has not like downloaded the relevant jar files that are needed to run on this version of WebDriver Manager. And all you need to do to eliminate this one is to reload the Maven import. And once I click on reload Maven import, it's going to download all the necessary files for this version of WebDriver Manager. But right now, I'm not going to do that because I've got the 5.6.3 version. So I'm just going to delete this one. I just wanted to show you where I got all of these dependencies from. And if I'm looking for a Cucumber Pico container as well, all I need to do is to copy this one. Assuming I want to update the version, copy the name of the dependency that you have, go into Maven repository and search for it. And you would see if it's got like the latest version, and you can obviously update the one that you have in your POM file. So right now we're using the updated one in our POM file, so we don't need to worry about anything. So I sort of updated everything before the start of this internship, and I ensured that everything was running fine, and they were all running fine on a previous project I had. So all the POM files, all the dependencies in the POM files that we have right now are all up to date, and aside from the WebDriver Manager, but it's fine. So moving on back to our step definition file. So right now, I have created all the step definitions for my Gherkin step. And now I want to try to open up the Chrome browser, which is what the given step is going to do. Given I navigate to the website. But before I do that, I need to declare the WebDriver. So WebDriver is sort of like an invisible hand that is going to be like clicking the different things on my screen, opening up the different things on my screen as well. So I'm going to consider the WebDriver as an invisible, and I don't know what else, what other analogy I can use, but I can only consider it as an invisible and that's going to be doing magic on my screen. So I'm going to declare WebDriver inside my step definition. And the way we do that is public static. Can you note? You need to note how I'm writing them. I didn't use capital P. I didn't use capital S. So all these Java keywords are all case sensitive. If I start with a capital S, for instance, nothing is going to pop up. And I need a small s for the static keyword. So public static WebDriver. Nice. And in most cases, when you type the WebDriver, it's meant to be imported automatically here, but you can see it's still showing in red. It means that it's not been imported automatically, and it's giving me an instruction on what to do as well. So because I'm using a Mac, I know that this is telling me to press Option and Enter. That's what it's asking me to do. But if you're using a Windows, I think it's meant to put a Windows option there for you to do. So it could be either Control and Enter or Shift and Enter, one of the two. That could be what it's going to tell you to do. But since I'm using a Mac now, it's telling me to press Option and Enter, and that's what I'm going to do. And you can see I pressed Option and Enter, and this import was automatically added at the very top of my file, and the WebDriver no longer has an error. So now you may be wondering, what does this public static WebDriver driver mean? So the public, like I mentioned before, so this public is a keyword in Java, is an access modifier in Java. And it basically means that the WebDriver can be accessed from any other class in the project. And the static keyword that we have here indicates that the variable driver is associated with the class itself rather than any instance of the class. So all of these explanations I'm going to be giving, I'm going to be talking about them in the introduction to Java class again. And when we look at this WebDriver library or a package, so this WebDriver is an interface from the Selenium library, and it's the main interface that is used for testing. And it basically also represents an idealized web browser as well. So the Chrome browser that is going to be opened up is gotten from this WebDriver Selenium library. And another word that we have here is the driver that is currently grayed out. And this driver here is basically a variable name for the instance of the WebDriver. So instead of calling this WebDriver within your methods or your steps, you basically call driver, but it's basically doing the job of the WebDriver as well. So this driver here is basically an instance of the WebDriver, and is also considered to be a variable as well. So if I put everything together now, what does public static WebDriver driver mean? It basically means, or it is basically declaring a public static variable named driver of type WebDriver. So that's just basically what this particular line means. And it's always good to have an understanding of what this means as well, just in case you're asked in a job interview, just to explain specific lines in your code or specific block of code within your file as well. Right. So the next thing we're going to do now is to so the next thing we're going to do now is to try to open up a browser. And how do we do that? We need to first declare our Chrome driver. And like I mentioned, instead of downloading the Chrome driver from the internet, we're going to be picking up the Chrome driver from our WebDriver manager dependency that we have in the POM file. So how do we do this? Just type web driver. You can see it's already coming up as the second option, WebDriver manager. I need you to take note of the words that I'm using as well. I'm using a capital W, not a small w, capital D, not a small d. And The next thing I'm going to do is WebDriver Manager dot Chrome driver, because I want IntelliJ to open up a Chrome browser for me. If you want it to open up Microsoft Edge, use the Edge driver. If you want it to open up Firefox, you need to use the Firefox driver. If you want it to open up Internet Explorer, use the IE driver. If you want to open up Opera or Safari, use the relevant drivers as well. But we are going to be using Chrome driver. So I'm going to do WebDriver Manager dot Chrome driver dot set up. Nice. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to call this driver here. Driver equals new Chrome driver. And you can see that I'm ending each line of my code with a semicolon. If I don't, an error is going to pop up. You can see there's a red line there and also a red bulb. And it's basically telling me that I need to insert a semicolon, and it's giving me an example of what it should look like. So there's a semicolon missing. So I'm just going to click on insert semicolon, and it's done that for me. And the keyword or the key block of code that I need to ask Chrome driver to open up Chrome browser is driver.get. So you're going to be seeing me use driver.driver.driver. So driver.get, driver dot is going to bring out a list of methods that I can use. So methods is another Java programming terminology that you obviously need to know about. Methods, objects, and a couple of other words as well. So if I do a driver dot is going to list all the methods that I'm going to be able to access from the WebDriver Selenium library. Like I mentioned, the WebDriver is a Selenium library that is going to give me access to the different methods inside of it. So one of the methods right now is driver.get, and driver.get is going to open up the URL that I specify it to go to. So driver.get, I'm going to click on driver.get, so the very first line. And you can see that it says it requires a string, which is another thing we're going to look at in Java programming: string, integers, and all the other words. So a string is something like this: a sentence inside a double quote. I think it's called a double quote. A sentence or a word or a letter inside a double quote is considered a string. And you can see it is green in color. So that's how you know what a string is. So driver.get, I need to fill in a string into the bracket. So what string am I going to fill into the bracket? What URL do I want my Chrome driver to access? So I need to go, I need to copy this URL that I've posted into the group, and is also on the PDF document as well. So driver.get, I want you to navigate to this URL. And once you've navigated to the URL, so in most cases, your Chrome browser that opens up can either be minimized, or you can tell Chrome driver to enlarge the window that opens up to the size of your screen. So it shows not full screen, but like in your screen resolution of your laptop, basically. So it's going to show in the resolution of your laptop. So in order to tell Chrome driver to show the browser in the resolution of my laptop, I don't want it to be minimized. I need to do driver.manage. You can see that as I'm typing one letter of the word, I'm getting the selection on a list. So driver.manage.window.maximize. So this is going to maximize the web page to my screen resolution. So now that I have done that, before I fill in the rest of the step definition, I'm going to run the test now, and it should open up Chrome driver for me. It should navigate to this URL, like slot in the URL in the banner that you need to slot in URLs. Then it should also maximize the screen, the web page to my laptop resolution screen. So let's try to do that. And how do I run my test? All I need to do is to right click and then go to run feature inquiry page. So I'm going to click on that one. Okay, so it says step undefined. Why is it saying step undefined? Let me rebuild the project. So I went to build and rebuild project. I'm just going to check if there's something wrong. And then I'm going to try to run that again. This is taking longer than expected. Okay, so you can see I have a Chrome browser open here, and that was opened by the WebDriver in my IntelliJ. It's accessed the URL up here, and it's also maximized the screen for me. It maximized it to my screen resolution. So if I go back to my IntelliJ, you will see it's all ticked. So it said that I navigate to the website. This step passed. That's why it's in green. This step also passed. Even though there's nothing inside the other step definitions, it's obviously run them for me. And there's no code there, so there's nothing it is doing. You didn't give it anything to do. So it's just going to pass them. But the first given step, the only given step that we have, has got block of code inside of it, and it has been executed successfully as well, and that worked. And that is why we have our Chrome browser opening up for us here, and is accessed the URL, and is also enlarged the screen for me. And that is what I was expecting it to do. So I'm going to try to go through the first two fields that we have on our web page. And should I go through that? Yeah, let's quickly go through that. So we're going to go through the first two fields that we have on our web page. And a quick question is, or maybe not a quick question, like a quick reminder is, I mentioned that for fields like this, we need to enter or fill in a value into them. But how do we do that? So we need to get what we call locators. So locators is what the Chrome driver is going to use to find the different fields or the different drop downs or the different radio buttons that you want it to perform an action on. In this case, for the first name field, we want Chrome driver to look for this field, and we want it to enter the first name inside of it. So the first name in this case is going to be my own name. It can be anybody's name. It can be a random name as well. So the first name field here is, or the value of the first name field I'm going to enter is Oyin. So I want Chrome driver to enter Oyin into the first name box for me. So how would it do that? It needs to look for the first name field locator. And how do we get our locators? We are going to right click anywhere on the screen, right click on your Chrome driver screen, go to insert. So the insert option, and we're going to see a block of code on the right hand side here. Good. So we're going to see a block of code on the right-hand side here. This is what we call HTML DOM. So this is the block of code written by the developer to create this page. All the colors that we have on the page, the bold words, the fields and everything. This is the HTML code that was used to create this web page. So now I want to look for the locator for the first name field itself. And how do I look for the locators? Or before I move on, let me go over what locators are. And if I open up my slide, because I have a slide for that. Right. So what are locators? So locators is another terminology that you need to have an idea of. And it is very, 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 very important. So what is locator? So like what I have on the screen, locators enable testers to select an HTML DOM element for the WebDriver to act on. So if you want your WebDriver to fill in a field, to click the radio button, you need to provide a mechanism for it to do that. And the mechanism they're going to be providing are what we call locators. So you will find locators in the HTML DOM, like I said, and you can either pick up the locator that is in the DOM, or you create your own locator by yourself. And there are different types of locators. We have locators by ID, name, class name, link text, partial link text, tag name, CSS selector, and XPath. And for the XPath, we have the absolute and the relative XPath. So the major ones that I see people use are always the ID, the name, the link text, the tag name, the CSS selector, and the XPath especially. So I sent a link into the PDF document for locators, and I hope you've taken time to look through the links, because it's got the links there are like really useful information for you to read up on. You can read up on the different locators as well. I think on one of the links I posted, it goes in depth into all of the locators, how they are being used, and where you're meant to use them as well. So the best practices for locators. So how do you use, or when do you use locators, or how should your locators look like? So the best practices, one of the first points that I have here is keep your locators short. So it's always good to have short locators, because it allows your Chrome driver to easily target the exact element that you want it to click on. And it also reduces the chances of your script breaking, because the number of elements on a page has changed, or the locator that is long could be used like multiple times in multiple places on your page. So you need to always try to keep your locators short. And he also says avoid ID locators that change location. So you're going to see what this means later on down the line, because we could have IDs that are assigned by the browser, and it is used to identify like HTML tags on your page. So the IDs would remain the same just on that browser alone. So if you open up another browser and you're trying to look for that same ID, you'll probably not see it there anymore, because the ID that you've used in that case is probably only for the instance of the browser that was opened at that time. So you should always avoid IDs that change location, and you will see what that means along the line. Then we also have another best practice for using locators that says use a unique ID for element identification. So you're also going to see what this one means as well. So you could have, or you would usually have, IDs that are specific to elements on the page, and you'll see them, they'll be obvious as well. And they would also be obvious in the HTML DOM. So it could be a case of ID equals first name, capital F, capital N, no spaces in between the two words. That could be an ID. And you obviously know that that is only going to be for the first name field in that case. So that's what this point means, that you should use a unique ID for element identification. Then we also have avoid locators that use auto-generated values. So this is also similar to the second point as well. So there are some IDs or some locators. So it could be like your CSS, your expert locator, your ID locator, that are only generated once the browser is opened up in that instance. So it could be a case of ID equals name 1-2. If you open up the web page again and you check what the ID is going to be equal to, it could be equal to ID equals name 2-2. So in those type of cases, you shouldn't be using those kind of locators at all, because they are not dynamic. Is that the word? Or let me just say those IDs are not like unique, basically. So you shouldn't use those kind of IDs. Then we also have use locators that are independent of HTML structure. So we're going to be seeing what each of these points mean, how you're meant to use locators within your framework as well. So that is what we have for locators. So if we go back to our web page, which I was showing, was it this one? Oh, it was this one. So our web page, how did we get here again? We right-clicked on anywhere on our page, click on inspect, then the HTML DOM came up. Now I want to get the locator for the first name field. And how do I do that? All I need to do is to click on this arrow here, or this icon rather, and the icon says select an element in the page to inspect it. So I need to click on that icon. Once I clicked on the icon, you can see that it is blue in color. It was white previously. And once I click on the icon, I need to move my cursor to the element that I want to get. So the first name field element is what I want to get, for instance. And once I clicked on it, you can see that the HTML DOM here took me straight here, and you can see it's also highlighted in blue as well. And let me see if I can expand this one. I think this should be visible. Hopefully it's not too tiny. So you can see that there are different attributes for these first name elements that we have here. We have the type attributes, we have the ID, we have the class, we have the name. And this ID, for instance, is not valid. So you can see on our presentation slide, IDs that change location, or locators that use auto-generated values. So in this instance right now, I'm pretty sure that this ID that we have here, if I open up another web browser and I look for this ID, I don't think it's going to be stagnant. It would have changed again. So I know that in this case, I'm not going to be using the ID as my locator here. But what I can do is, if I want to get the XPath, for instance, because an XPath is also a type of locator. If I want to get the XPath locator, for instance, all I need to do is to right-click on the path that's already been highlighted in blue, which is for my first name field. Right-click on that, click on copy, then copy XPath. Copy XPath. So I'm going to copy that. And there are some times that your XPath could be used in multiple places on your page. And that basically means that it's also not unique to this first name field element. And in cases like that, you would not use those kind of XPaths, because your XPath needs to be unique to the elements that you're trying to tell WebDriver to perform an action on. So I've basically copied my XPath, but I want to ensure that it is unique only to the first name field that we have on our page. So how do I know that, or how do I perform that? So click on anywhere on this HTML DOM again. If you are using a Mac, do a Command F, or if you're using a Windows, do a Control F, and you will see that another section popped up just here. So I'm going to do Command F. If you're using Windows, do Control F. And you can see that this basically popped up just now. It wasn't there before. I'm going to cancel it. You can see it's no longer there. I'm going to do a Command F, do a Control F if you're on Windows, and you will see this section pop up. So you can remember that I copied an XPath, right? So I'm going to paste the XPath I copied. And you can see it's showing me 1 of 1. So the elements that you are using in your automation framework should always be unique to the element that you're trying to tell WebDriver to perform an action on. And in this case, this is absolutely unique to the first name field. It's showing me 1 of 1. And if it's showing me 1 of 2, in that case, I would not want to use that. But since it's showing me 1 of 1, that means that it is unique to the first name field. And I'm going to be picking up this locator, which is going to be my XPath. And I'm not going to copy it into IntelliJ just now, but I'm going to show you how to get the locator for my last name field. So just like I've done previously, I'm going to come back here to click on this icon, come to the last name field, click on the last name field. There you can see this section here is highlighted in blue. And if I want to copy the XPath locator, all I need to do is to right click, copy XPath. And once I copy that, I want to ensure that it's going to be showing as 1 of 1. So I'm going to paste it in here. And you can see it is showing me 1 of 1. And so the first 2 that I've done are locators by XPath. So assuming I want to get locator by name, I'm just going to copy. You can see there's an attribute here that says name equals this long phrase or set of words in the semicolon. So I'm going to copy that, just the name value itself, and I'm going to paste it here, and let's see what happens. Sweet. So I can get the locator by XPath. I can get it by the name as well. And I've just copied the name just to ensure that the name is unique to just the last name field. So it's showing me 1 of 1 also. So I think from our next class, I'm going to be copying these 2 locators that I've gotten into my IntelliJ, and then I'm going to tell Chrome Driver to perform actions on them, and the actions would be to fill in some set of words into those fields. So this is where I'm just going to stop the class for today, and I'm going to answer questions quickly before I drop off by 10:30. I've got another meeting. So I don't know if you have any questions or any questions in the chat as well. Any questions?
Yes, please.
Sorry?
Question.
I don't know who is speaking, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Allow me there.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Regarding the step definition, is it possible to if you can go there? Yeah, thank you. Can you go to step definition from the future file? I observed you did the given first. Yeah. Before the order. Is it possible to do everything together?
You can do everything together, but like you saw, I did the giving first, but that did not come out well. And I had to copy and paste what it's meant to look like. So in a case where you've done it for everything and then it doesn't come out well, you have to be copying and pasting and be adjusting every single one of them. So that's why I said you need to do the giving first. See how it looks like. If it comes out nice, that's fine. If it doesn't come out nice, you need to change it to what the format is meant to look like. Then you then go back to create step definition for all the other ones. That is really not going to take your time if you do it separately, because you are doing the given step first, then the rest of the steps, you're doing them all together.
So if you're doing the given first, the cursor will be on given, right?
It's going to be on I navigate to the website part of the given step, not the given itself. So the other part of the sentence is where you need to put your cursor on.
So if I create step, it will only create for the given alone.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions, please?
Yeah, thanks, Oyin. Yeah, you can jump off if you want to jump off. That's fine. So, I'll take it from here. I've got some people that got issues with that Java anyway, so which I'm going to kind of look into. Yeah, after you've left. Thank you so much. Yeah, for this.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's some people that are in advanced, right? For those guys that are joining, right? Advanced is kind of a follow-on program that we normally do after this anyway. So yeah, so they are doing Java, right? So, and they've got some issues. So we're going to look at that together anyway. And maybe it's good, you guys are going to learn from it as well. So let it be interactive. Okay. So, and yeah, who's recording? Maybe the person can stop. We can start another recording.